My name is Austin Mussellman. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. My grandmother really loved nature. She, would take me out, teach me all the names of the birds and the plants and everything. And as long as I can remember, I just loved being outdoors. After high school, I went off to college, and always loving the farm life. I'd come back in the summers, I'd go out on my grandparents' farm, and I knew somehow that I wanted to come back and do something in farming. I heard that my grandmother was thinking about selling the farm, so I begged my parents to consider buying it and that I would promise to be a good steward of the land, take care of it, try to get back in shape and make it a working, sustainable farm for the wildlife, nature, the soils, everything. I started hunting when I was 8 years old, tagging along with my dad. And when we got to go hunting together, it was just the two of us, and building the blind together, sitting in the woods together, and it was just a moment with him, something I still remember even when I was 8 years old, like it was yesterday. That's another thing that's always attracted me to hunting, is just the experiences of sharing it with other people and friends and family. Not only the hunting, but also the stewardship work that we've done while we'll be out there with now my children. We may be messing around on a four-wheeler, planting trees, and a lot of the things we do out there, we're not going to see immediate results from, that they're going to take decades or longer to really see benefit. And that the things we're doing is not just for our own benefit for hunting now, but it's also being just good stewards of the land and also doing something for generations to come. This is a really good place to find some sheds out here. Keep your eyes peeled. They're feeding a lot right now out here because this stuff's greened up.
There's one.
This is amazing you got that.
Yeah.
It's so cool being out here with your grandfather and me, and it reminds me when I was your age and Pop took me hunting the first time.
You got that 8-pointer. We thought that was huge.
Yeah, it's amazing that how this all started, and here we are together out looking for deer antlers together.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
All right, let's go get some more.
Yeah,
all right?
It's gonna be tough to top that. About 9 years ago, I hired Todd Carter, who came on to work with us, and he worked on farms his whole life, row cropping, and loved deer hunting as much or more than me. And my other friend, Glenn Eilers, who had a day job, but he would, any free time that he could spare, would be out at the farm helping us. And he too is just passionate about deer and hunting and everything about it.
Let's go in here and do a little bit of hinge cutting. That's an area we've been wanting to work on for a while. This guy right here looks like a perfect cane. Yeah. I'd say drop it either north or south here. That way they can get on either side, whichever way the wind's blowing in the wintertime. Get a little bit of wind break.
But ideally, when you're hinge cutting it, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get this tree to survive, after it's fallen over and grow. It'll typically grow for a few years after the fact. But you do that by not cutting all the way through. You cut basically 3/4 to 80% of the way through. You leave the cambium layer intact so that it can continue to send nutrients and water to the rest of the tree so it stays alive. I mean, here we're trying to create bedding cover. We're just off of a food plot about 100 yards up the hill here. We've got kind of a cedar thicket down here that's really pretty barren on the ground level, but there's a lot of cedars, so we're dropping some cedars here to create some ground cover, some thermal cover. And depending on tree species, I mean, typically cedars are really common here, so we cut a lot of cedars, but there's other tree species where, maples, things like that, where you cut them and you'll get some sprout growth here at the stump that creates browse for the animals to eat on as well. It's really that simple. It's just a chainsaw and a little bit of elbow grease, and you can do a lot for a property.
Here's another example of an area that we've kind of defined over shed hunting. Over the years, we've found multiple sheds underneath cedar trees. If you look around, most of the cedar tree limbs are all the way down to the ground. So we've found them before where this kind of grassy area is growing, where the limbs are higher up. So we'll go around and create those same type of scenarios where we'll just cut the lower limbs off. You've got this great canopy. You have the nice grass for thermal cover.
It's simple. I mean, it's low tech as it gets. I mean, it's a chainsaw and a little time is all it takes.
Just something good to add in with the hinge cutting.
Springtime here in Kentucky, March, we do a lot of prescribed firework. It's one of the most beneficial tools we have is fire management. We're going to burn a couple small units today. We've just found this prairie grass plantings on marginal soils. Just great habitat for everything, deer, turkeys, quail. Got a couple of my buddies here today helping me, Glenn Eilers and Todd, who works on the farm. 3 guys is a good enough crew here for this type of burn.
East wind, we're going to burn around the Jack Daniels barn.
Right here?
Yeah, we're going to burn that unit. Get 2 drip torches, and one go west and one go to the south here on this line, and this fire should rip all through this unit. It should be fun. We got good conditions.
Good. Let's light it up.
Perfect. Good hot fire.
Yeah, good hot fire. It's good to burn that thatch off. I mean, it's I don't know how you'd manage these prairie grasses without fire.
Yeah, I think bush hog, it all just keep piling up there.
Yeah.
Burning that off, you get that bare dirt where the quail, turkeys, all that can bug better. And
well, it's nice too. It hits those woodies, and
yeah,
all the cedars and all those softwoods. They would take this place over if we didn't use the fire. It'll be interesting to see how this comes back and how green it'll be in a couple weeks.
It'll get green, and hopefully the turkeys will get in here and nest in it.
Yep.
Well, it looks like we got this one wrapped up. I guess we'll head to the next one and
All right.
try to finish up for the day.
Let's move on.
Let's load up.
How you doing, Jason?
Good. How y'all doing, guys?
Well, yeah. Got a little bit of our burns done.
Good.
Pretty saw the smoke.
Yeah, quite a bit of smoke this morning.
Yeah. So you planting some of this alfalfa out here, huh?
Did. We got this field done this morning.
Uh-huh.
Should be a good stand.
Good, good. Well, it's nice we can plant a little alfalfa for the cows and roll it up if we need to, and the deer like it too. So this spot is really special to us. A lot of firsts went down in here in this field. It was the first place I ever killed a deer. It got a little button buck, and it's only 75 yards away from here. And right behind me, I killed the biggest deer I'd ever killed. We were flipping through our trail camera pictures several years ago, and we noticed a 3-year-old deer that had a kicker point. He had really long tines, he had long brow tines, and you could tell he was a young deer. We just said, this is one to watch.
This is actually the deer at 3.5 years old with a nice little kicker, and he actually had triple brows on this side here. We definitely wanted to watch this deer and see what he developed into.
So the next year, we start running our trail camera pictures early in June. We start off on mineral licks that we put out, and we saw this deer come back, and we recognized it was him. And he had similar characteristics, but made a nice jump and had a lot more character points.
It was amazing to see the development of that deer and the drop time, the mass, and everything he carried. This was going to be one of the largest deer that I've ever had any chance of dealing with.
The following year, again, running our cameras on the mineral licks, he'd come back just like nothing we could ever imagine. Even though he was still developing, you could see he just had quadrupled in size, had just points coming out everywhere. It was like a deer you've read about, but you never really thought you'd have an opportunity at one like it. My whole team and I, we just sat down and we pieced together every bit of information we could on this deer, where we'd gotten trail camera pictures, outlining where we knew bedding areas were in the area that deer preferred, and tried to figure out possible locations to hunt the deer. The only place we consistently get him on trail camera was in the middle of the field. We decided to try to hunt him in the middle of the field.
In the middle of the field, not a whole lot of trees to climb or anything like that, so we came up with the plan to use a roll bale blind. And this was a hay field, it had roll bales in it, so we kind of arranged the roll bales and kind of tucked the redneck roll bale blind in amongst all the other roll bales and thought, hey, this might work.
So finally, opening day of bow season came, and we'd been planning on how to make this hunt count, because we knew a deer like this, you wouldn't get a lot of second chances.
This deer on our mind and all this preparation work we've been going into, and decided this would be so cool if we could capture it on video. We bought a nice camera, like if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it right. So I was fortunate enough to be the designated cameraman. Of course, there's a learning curve to these things, as you'll find out if you ever try to do it.
It was just tremendously hot. We got in this round bale and the sun was beating down on it. We were just pouring in sweat.
It was probably 140 in the blind. We set that night, and probably, hindsight, probably due to the heat, the deer just weren't gonna move that early. So we didn't end up seeing the deer.
We kept checking our trail camera pictures. We noticed he was still coming out.
Like, he's showing up every night after dark. We're getting him on camera, so we know he's still coming. We just gotta be there when he does.
To join Gamekeepers, visit gamekeepersclub.com or pick up a magazine at Tractor Supply, Walmart, or Bass Pro Shops.
Finally, we got one night that was just amazing. It was a high pressure system. The wind was blowing steady. It was a little bit cooler slightly. And Glenn and I pile into the blind again and kind of ribbing each other, saying, hey, imagine if he comes out early and with all this light. And it wasn't just a couple minutes later, Glenn was looking out another viewing hole out the redneck roll bale blind, and he said, there he is.
And of course, at that moment when you realize this deer standing, at that point, 150 yards away, you just you feel it. And it's a feeling that you can't replicate. I mean, you have to be a hunter. You have to really appreciate and know what all went into this to get you to this point. And now he's standing 150 yards away.
And then even at one point, the deer put his head down to feed. Glenn said, I think he stopped for a while. If you want to look at him, go ahead. So I got on my knees and peered out his viewing hole, and I saw just enough to make me really nervous.
He said, that's all I want to see of him. I'm gonna get ready. So he sits back, focuses out his window, starts gathering himself, taking deep breaths. Meanwhile, I'm holding a camera, zooming through this little hole, trying to maintain myself. So, I'm sure I'm shaking like a leaf.
It took forever, and the wind was quartering just beyond him down, and he was zigzagging back and forth, coming to his little favorite knoll.
Finally, this deer finally decides to make his way, kind of comes in, and at one point, these blinds have a couple of holes in the front, and we got this little hole time. He disappears. So I move over to the other hole and can't see this deer. So I'm like, where is he? Where is he? Where is he going? Is he gone? I'm looking through the other hole. Well, he comes in, now my camera's blocked. So I gotta move over to the next hole. At that point, I move in, I find him again, and it's about when he comes into view for Austin. And he sees him, and you can kind of hear You hear that intake of breath, like, okay, it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. They said, I'm on him whenever you're ready. And within a few seconds, there went the arrow. If we were already overcome with emotion, as soon as that arrow hit and that deer ran away, it was just, you can't describe it. It's just everything let go. It was like, oh my gosh, we just did it. Oh my gosh, we just did it.
I think we waited till 1 in the morning, celebrating, but still cautious and nervous. Finally, just Todd and Glenn and I went out to start tracking it.
How much penetration? At least 13, 14 inches.
We start following blood, kind of come to this knoll, and we look out and we see a white belly.
What's that? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. There it is. Oh. Oh my God. Look at this. Oh, look at him. Oh, thank you so much, God. Oh, this is unbelievable. We found him.
Dude,
oh my God.
way to go, dude.
Can you believe it? Oh, thank you. Congratulations to you and everybody. This is a team effort. We all did this. I was just happy enough to pull the trigger. Getting that big deer was just a huge satisfaction for me and everybody involved. We had come from a time when, you know, a 100-inch deer or a button buck was a trophy and rare to see, to where we harvested one of the biggest deer I know I'll ever see in my lifetime. And it was really a great moment to have all that hard work pay off.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Well, let's
All right,
get
I gotta
rally
put
the
this camera
troop.
down and touch him.
Dude, oh my God!
I gotta touch him.